Rexer, the blue-skinned Nased ambassador, paced the gleaming floor of the Triant Empire's space station, his tendrils twitching with barely contained agitation. The station, a hub of intergalactic diplomacy and trade, was buzzing with activity as diplomats and scientists from various species went about their business. Rexer had been stationed here for months, observing the humans and their peculiar ways, but nothing had prepared him for the bizarre revelation that had just come to light. "What is that?" Rexer had shouted earlier, pointing an accusing finger at the bulge in Vincent's pants. Vincent, a junior human diplomat, had looked down in confusion, only to realize with horror that the alien ambassador was referring to his crotch. Rexer's scales had bristled with disgust as he exclaimed, "I had no idea humans possessed such grotesque anatomy." He had demanded an explanation for why this anatomical feature wasn't disclosed, his voice rising with every word. Flustered and embarrassed, Vincent had tried to explain that it was just a normal part of human male biology. But Rexer had seemed personally offended, storming out of the room and declaring, "This changes everything." Now, as Rexer paced the control room, he couldn't shake the image from his mind. It wasn't just the physical aspect that disturbed him, but what it represented. The humans were so different, so alien in their biology and customs. How could the Triant Empire trust such a species when they harbored such strange secrets? Word of humanity's bizarre anatomy spread like wildfire through the Triant Empire. Many Nasad, like Rexer, reacted with the same revulsion. To them, this was proof that humans were a primitive, inferior species, ripe for subjugation. Some even called for a Human Genital Registration Act, a grotesque overreaction that reflected their deep-seated xenophobia. Back on Earth, Vincent found himself an unwitting celebrity for exposing this shameful secret. Humans were divided, some furious at Vincent for flashing the alien ambassador, others seeing Rexer's response as a grievous insult. A vocal faction emerged, declaring that humans shouldn't be ashamed of their natural bodies. But the situation was more serious than it seemed. Emperor Zolo of the ruthless Triant Empire saw an opportunity. If this revelation so shook the Nased, perhaps human anatomy could be weaponized to destabilize Earth's other alliances. He ordered his strategists to devise a plan to weaken humanity's galactic standing, sowing strife and dreaming of adding Earth to his sprawling dominion. Meanwhile, a scrappy human rebel group, calling themselves the Bulge Brigade, had been quietly gaining support. Led by the resourceful Hawkins, they launched a stealthy propaganda campaign to reframe the incident as a catalyst to overthrow Triant authoritarian rule. As their following grew bolder, they planned sabotage against Triant operations on Earth. Vincent, reeling from igniting this bizarre political conflict, was contacted by Hawkins about an alliance, but how much was he willing to risk for human autonomy? Battle lines were drawn as Triant and rebels geared up for an ideological and biological clash that could reshape the galaxy's balance of power. The tension in the Triant space station was palpable. Rexer, still grappling with the implications of his discovery, sat in his quarters, staring out at the stars. The galaxy was vast, full of wonders and terrors alike, but the humans had introduced an unpredictability that Rexer found deeply unsettling. A chime at the door broke his reverie. "Enter," he called out, his voice betraying none of the turmoil he felt inside. Zur, his trusted aide, slipped into the room, her sinuous form wound tight with tension. "Sir, forgive the intrusion, but I have urgent news. I've intercepted disturbing communications about a secretive Triant operation targeting the humans, something called Operation Fussfall." Rexer's head tendrils curled in alarm. "Tell me everything you know." As Zer relayed the fragmentary details, Rexer's blood ran cold. The plan was monstrous, even by Triant standards, weaponizing a virus to exploit human anatomy. It was a new low, a tactic that even Rexer, a loyal servant of the Empire, found abhorrent. He thought of Vincent, the earnest young diplomat who had inadvertently sparked this conflict. The humans didn't deserve such cruelty. Abruptly, Rexer stood, summoned Vincent at once. Discreetly, Zur nodded and slipped from the room, a ghost of a smile on her lips. The seeds of change were taking root. Light years away, Emperor Xylo lounged on his obsidian throne, listening with glee as his advisors outlined the details of Operation Fussfall. Once infected, the human insurgents will be crippled by their own treacherous biology. One advisor gloated, their bulge brigade will become a liability. But on the fringes of explored space, a strike team of Triant operatives descended on a remote human colony. Their mission: collect the virus and prepare for deployment. The fate of the galaxy teetered on a knife's edge. Vincent arrived at Rexer's summons, his gut tight with anxiety. Had his rebel sympathies been discovered? But as Rexer urgently ushered him inside and sealed the door, Vincent sensed a deeper purpose to this meeting. Rexer's voice was grave as he explained the situation. A virus tailored to human physiology. The implications are staggering. "What do you need me to do?" Vincent asked, a newfound steel in his voice. Rexer's tendrils drooped with the weight of his decision. "You must find a way to stop this. The embassy is crawling with Triant loyalists. Be careful." As Vincent slipped out into the night, his mind raced with the enormity of the task ahead. He had to act fast. Humanity's future depended on it. In a hidden base on Earth, Hawkins, leader of the Bulge Brigade, pored over stolen Triant communications. The news of Operation Fussfall had shaken him to his core. If the Triants succeeded, it wouldn't just be the end of the rebellion. It would be the end of humanity's resistance across the galaxy. A knock at the door sent him reaching for his blaster, but he relaxed as Vincent stepped inside. The junior diplomat's face was drawn with worry. "We've got a problem," Vincent began, his voice low. Hawkins listened intently as Vincent explained what he had learned from Rexer. A virus targeting human anatomy. It was worse than they had imagined. "We need to act fast," Hawkins said, his mind already racing with possibilities. If the Triants get their hands on that virus, it's over. The two men worked late into the night, cross-referencing colony locations with Triant fleet movements. As dawn broke, Hawkins smacked his fist on the table, a plan finally taking shape. "Zephyrus Prime," he said, pointing to a remote research outpost. Isolated, minimal defenses, and the perfect target for a Triant smash and grab. Vincent hesitated, thinking of his career, his family. But then he thought of Earth, subjugated, its people ravaged by Triant bioweapons. He met Hawkins' gaze with a newfound resolve. "All the way," he said. As they geared up for the mission, a message came through from Zur. "Triant stealth tech, ripe for the taking." Hawkins grinned, the first sign of hope in days. Maybe we got a chance after all. The Bulge Brigade's stolen ship screamed through hyperspace, every second precious. In the hold, Vincent watched Hawkins brief his team, hardened rebels with fire in their eyes. "This isn't just about Earth anymore," Hawkins said, his voice filled with determination. "If Xylo gets his hands on this virus, no human world will be safe. We stop them here, or we don't stop them at all." As they dropped out of hyperspace, Zephyrus Prime loomed before them. And there, descending through the atmosphere, was a Triant assault shuttle. "Zorg," Hawkins growled, recognizing the Triant commander. "All right, people, you know the drill. Get in, secure the samples, get out. And if that Triant bastard gets in our way." He left the sentence unfinished, the implication clear. Vincent gripped his sidearm, his heart pounding as the ship touched down. He said a silent prayer for Earth, for humanity, for the galaxy itself. Whatever happened next would change everything. The Bulge Brigade ship shuddered as it emerged from hyperspace, Zephyrus Prime looming large in the view screen. Vincent's heart sank as he saw the massive Triant reinforcement fleet arrayed before them. "We're outnumbered and outgunned," Hawkins growled, his fist clenched on the controls. "Damn it." A harsh voice crackled over the comms. "Rebel vessels, this is Admiral Krax of the Triant Empire. Surrender immediately or be destroyed." Vincent and Hawkins exchanged a grim look. They both knew there was only one way out of this. "Open a channel," Hawkins said, his eyes sharp. Vincent complied, and Hawkins addressed the Triant Admiral. "We have the virus samples. Let us go, and they're yours." As the rebel ship was pulled into the Triant Dreadnought's hangar, Vincent's mind raced. He had to buy them time, ensure their safe passage. When the airlock hissed open, he stepped forward, the precious vials clutched to his chest. Admiral Krax towered over him, mandibles clicking in anticipation. "The samples," he demanded, his voice cold. Vincent cleared his throat. "First, we need assurances of our safe departure. In writing." Krax's eyes narrowed, but he barked an order to a subordinate. While they waited, Vincent's gaze darted around the hangar, noting entry points and security measures, just in case. The document was produced, and Vincent scrutinized every word before nodding to Hawkins. With great reluctance, Hawkins handed over the vials. "A pleasure doing business," Krax sneered. "Now get out of my sight." Back on Earth, the Bulge Brigade's daring raid became the stuff of legend. New recruits flooded in, eager to join the fight against Triant oppression. But with their swelling numbers came new challenges. Hawkins banged his hand on the table during a heated strategy meeting. "We risk everything we've built if we don't play this smart." The argument raged on, neither side willing to back down. In the midst of the chaos, a group of the most radical members slipped away, whispering among themselves. Days later, Vincent received a cryptic message. He met Hawkins in a secluded alley, concern etched on both their faces. "They're calling themselves the Grown Lords," Hawkins said, disgust evident in his voice. "Planning to escalate things. Take the fight directly to Triant civilians." Vincent's stomach churned. "We can't let that happen. It would destroy everything we've worked for." As they debated their next move, neither noticed the shadowy figure watching from a nearby rooftop, eavesdropping on their conversation. Across the galaxy, in the sterile labs of the Triant homeworld, a team of scientists huddled around a glowing vial. "Codpiece collapse is nearly ready, Your Majesty," the lead researcher reported, his voice trembling with anticipation. "Just a few more tests." Emperor Xylo's laughter echoed through the chamber, a sound that sent chills down the spines of those present. "Excellent," he purred. "Soon, the humans will learn the price of defiance." But as whispers of the project spread, an unexpected backlash grew on Triant-controlled worlds. Citizens traded increasingly outlandish rumors about the nature of Codpiece collapse. Some even dared to mock their emperor's fixation on Earth, turning the situation into a galactic joke. The absurdity of it all threatened to overshadow the very real danger looming on the horizon. In his quarters at the Nassid embassy, Rexer paced restlessly, his conversation with Zur playing over and over in his mind. "You did the right thing," Zur had said, her voice calm and reassuring. But Rexer wasn't so sure. The stakes were higher than ever, and the choices he made now could determine the fate of entire worlds. Meanwhile, on the outskirts of the galaxy, Vincent and Hawkins continued their desperate search for allies. The Grown Lord's radical agenda had driven a wedge through the rebellion, and time was running out. As the first reports of Codpiece Collapse's deployment began to trickle in, panic spread like wildfire. Hawkins knew they had to act, but without a clear plan, their chances of success were slim at best. Vincent, too, felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. He had started this mess, and now it was up to him to find a way to end it. But with the Triant Empire closing in on all sides, hope was in short supply. The galaxy teetered on the brink of chaos. The Triant Empire's ruthless tactics had pushed humanity to the edge, and now, with Codpiece collapse threatening to wipe out any hope of resistance, the situation had never been more dire. In a hidden bunker on Earth, Hawkins and Vincent gathered the remaining leaders of the rebellion. The Grown Lords had splintered off, taking their most radical followers with them, but the core of the Bulge Brigade remained. "We're out of time," Hawkins said, his voice hard as steel. "If we don't stop Codpiece collapse, it's over. Not just for us, but for every human world in the galaxy." Vincent nodded, his jaw set in determination. "What's the plan?" Hawkins leaned over the holographic map in the center of the room. "We hit the Triant Research Facility on Kaldar. That's where they're producing the virus. It's heavily fortified, but we've got no other choice. We take it out, or we die trying." The room was silent, the weight of the moment hanging heavy in the air. Each person knew what was at stake, and each was prepared to make the ultimate sacrifice if necessary. As they finalized their plans, Vincent's mind wandered to Rexer. The NASA ambassador had risked everything to warn him about Codpiece collapse. If they succeeded, it would be thanks in no small part to Rexer's courage. But first, they had to survive the mission. The assault on Kaldar was brutal. The Bulge Brigade's forces were outnumbered and outgunned, but they fought with a ferocity born of desperation. They had no illusions about their chances, but they were determined to take down the Triant facility or die trying. Vincent and Hawkins led the charge, their squad cutting through Triant defenses with a precision born of countless battles. But as they pushed deeper into the facility, the resistance grew fiercer. The Triant scientists had been expecting them, and they had prepared accordingly. Explosions rocked the facility as the rebels planted charges on critical infrastructure. The air was thick with smoke and the acrid smell of burning metal. But even as they advanced, Vincent couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. They'd reached the central lab, where the vials of Codpiece collapse were stored. Hawkins set the charges, his hand steady despite the chaos around him. 30 seconds, he said, his voice calm. But just as they turned to leave, the doors slammed shut, sealing them inside. "It's a trap," Vincent shouted, his heart pounding in his chest. Hawkins cursed, his mind racing as he tried to find a way out. But the Triants had planned for this. They had anticipated the attack, and now they were closing the net. As the clock ticked down, Vincent's thoughts turned to Rexer. The NASA ambassador had risked everything to give them this chance. He couldn't let it be for nothing. "Go," Vincent shouted, shoving Hawkins towards the emergency exit. "I'll hold them off." Hawkins hesitated, his eyes filled with anguish. But he knew there was no other choice. With a final nod, he bolted for the door, disappearing into the smoke-filled corridor. Vincent turned back to the lab, his mind clear and focused. He knew what he had to do. As the first Triant soldiers burst into the room, Vincent opened fire, his blaster cutting through the air with deadly precision. He fought with everything he had, buying Hawkins the time he needed to escape. The charges detonated with a deafening roar, and the lab was consumed in a blinding flash of light. Vincent didn't have time to react before the world around him went dark. When he awoke, the facility was in ruins. The rebels had succeeded, but at a terrible cost. The virus had been destroyed, but so had much of the Bulge Brigade. As the survivors regrouped, they were greeted with a sight that filled them with both hope and sorrow. Rexer had arrived, his ship landing amidst the wreckage. The NASA ambassador had come to see the end of the conflict, to witness the dawn of a new era. He approached Vincent, who was barely conscious, his body battered and bruised from the battle. "You did it," Rexer said, his voice filled with a mixture of awe and respect. Vincent nodded weakly, his strength fading. "We did it," he whispered, a faint smile on his lips. As the sun rose over the horizon, casting a golden light over the devastation, the survivors knew that they had fought not just for themselves, but for the future of humanity. The alliance they had forged with the Nased and other alien species had been tested in the crucible of war, but it had emerged stronger than ever. And as they looked to the stars, they knew that this was just the beginning. A new dawn was rising, one where humanity and its allies would stand united against any threat, no matter how great. The galaxy would never be the same, but for the first time in a long time, there was hope.